What if someone did not just believe in God, but actually saw him not imagined? Not symbolically, but truly saw him in a way that shattered everything he thought he knew. What if this man stood in a temple expecting silence, but instead encountered something so overwhelming that it broke him before it rebuilt him? And what if after that moment, he began to speak things that would not make sense? For hundreds of years, details too specific to be coincidence, too precise to be ignored, too dangerous to be comfortable. What if someone described a child who would be born, not from human expectation, but from divine interruption? What if he spoke about a man who would not conquer with power, but would suffer silently, intentionally carrying something that did not belong to him? And what if all of this was written centuries before it happened? Not vaguely, not metaphorically, but with clarity that feels almost unsettling. Because this is not just about prophecy. This is about perspective, about seeing reality from a place most people never reach. Because the truth is, most people think they understand God until they are confronted with who he actually is. And when that happens, everything changes. Because the man we are about to explore did not just speak about God, he encountered him, and after that, he could never speak the same way again. Before the visions, before the words that would echo through generations, before his name would be remembered, there was simply a man. Isaiah, not yet a prophet, not yet a voice, just a man living in a city that believed it was stable. Jerusalem, a place filled with history, with structure, with religion, with identity, but also with something deeper, something less visible: complacency. Because nations rarely collapse suddenly. They drift slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly, and that is exactly where Judah was. Not destroyed, not broken, but misaligned, and that is more dangerous. Because when things look normal, people stop questioning, they stop examining, they stop returning. Isaiah lived in this environment, and everything suggests he was not distant from power. He had access. He moved among those who influenced decisions, who shaped direction, who believed they were in control. He saw kings rise: Uzziah, a strong king who began well but ended in pride. Jotham, steady but unable to reverse the deeper decay. Ahaz, a king who chose fear over faith, who trusted alliances more than God. And then Hezekiah, a reformer, a king who tried to bring things back, but inherited a nation already unstable. Isaiah was there through all of it, watching, observing, understanding, something most people didn't. The problem was not external, it was internal. It was not about enemies outside the walls. It was about what was happening inside the hearts of the people. When a nation loses its spiritual center, everything else eventually follows. And Isaiah could see that trajectory. He could see where things were going before anyone else was willing to admit it. But here is what makes this moment powerful. At this stage, Isaiah is still silent. He has not spoken yet. He has not confronted anyone. He has not delivered any message. Because before a man can speak for God, he must first encounter him. And that moment was about to change everything. There are moments in life that don't just change your direction. They change your perception. They don't adjust you. They dismantle you completely. Isaiah did not wake up that day as expecting transformation. He walked into the temple like many had done before him, a place of routine, of structure, of familiarity, but what he encountered was not familiar. Because when God reveals himself, he does not fit into human expectation. He breaks it the year that King Uzziah died. That detail matters, because Uzziah represented stability, strength, structure. And now he was gone. The throne on earth was empty. But in that moment of uncertainty, Isaiah is shown something greater. A throne that was never empty. I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, Isaiah 6. This was not symbolic language. This was confrontation with reality. God was not distant, he was reigning, not reacting, not waiting, but ruling, and everything around him reflected that. Holiness, seraphim surrounded the throne. Not casually, not passively, but with intensity, with reverence, with precision. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Isaiah 6:3, not once, not twice, 3 times. Because human language struggles to describe what is beyond comprehension. The repetition is not poetic. It is necessary because holiness at that level cannot be contained in a single expression. And as they spoke, the foundations shook. The thresholds trembled, the temple filled with smoke. This was not a peaceful moment. It was overwhelming, uncontainable, unignorable, and in that moment, Isaiah does not feel inspired. He feels exposed. Woe is me, for I am undone, Isaiah 6:5. That word undone in the original sense means ruined, disintegrated, coming apart. Because when a human being truly encounters God, the first thing that collapses is the illusion of self-sufficiency. Isaiah does not compare himself to others. He does not justify himself. He does not defend himself. He sees, and what he sees is not just God's holiness, but his own condition. I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell among a people of unclean lips. Isaiah 6:5. Notice this. He does not isolate himself from the problem. He includes himself in it. Because true revelation does not create pride. It creates awareness, and awareness leads to humility. But then something unexpected happens. Judgment does not come first. Grace does. A seraphim takes a live coal from the altar. Fire not to destroy, but to purify. It touches his lips, the very place he identified as unclean. And the declaration follows. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned. For Isaiah 6:7, this is critical because before God sends a man, he restores him before assignment. There is cleansing before responsibility. There is grace, and only after that comes the question. Not a command, a question. Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Isaiah 6:8. God already knows the answer. But the question is not about information. It is about participation. Because calling is not forced. It is responded to, and Isaiah, now transformed, now aware, now aligned, answers with something simple but irreversible. Here am I, send me. Isaiah 6:8, no negotiation, no conditions, no delay, because when a man truly sees God, hesitation disappears, and this is where everything changes. Because from this moment forward, Isaiah will not speak opinions. He will speak truth not from observation, but from encounter, and once a man has encountered God, he can never return to comfortable silence. There is something dangerous about hearing truth when you are not willing to change. Because truth does not just inform, it exposes, and exposure is uncomfortable. Isaiah did not return from that encounter with a message people wanted to hear. He returned with a message people needed to hear. And those are rarely the same thing. Because Judah was not irreligious. That was the problem. They were deeply religious. They had structure, they had rituals, they had offerings, they had systems in place that gave the appearance of devotion. But appearance is not the same as alignment. And Isaiah saw through it, not because he was perceptive, but because he had seen something higher. And once you see truth clearly, you can no longer be impressed by imitation. Stop bringing meaningless offerings. Isaiah 1:13, that statement alone cuts deeper than most people realize. Because God is not rejecting sacrifice. He is rejecting emptiness. He is rejecting form without substance, action without transformation, worship without surrender. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Isaiah 29:13. This is not a critique of behavior. It is a diagnosis of distance, because it is possible to say the right things, to look the right way, to follow the right structure, and still be completely disconnected. And that is the most dangerous position of all, because when someone knows they are far, they can return. But when someone believes they are close while actually being distant, they stop seeking, they stop listening, they stop changing. And Isaiah was sent into that environment not to affirm it, but to disrupt it, to confront leaders who made decisions based on fear, to confront a people who trusted systems more than God, to expose a nation that had replaced dependence with control. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help. Isaiah 31:1. This was not just political advice. This was spiritual exposure, because Egypt represented something deeper. Human solutions for spiritual problems. Visible strength instead of invisible trust. And that pattern has not changed, because even now people still look for security in things. They can control in alliances, in structures, in systems, in strategies, but Isaiah's message was clear. If your foundation is not God, everything else is temporary. And when pressure comes, temporary things collapse. This is why his message was resisted, because he was not just correcting behavior. He was confronting identity. He was forcing people to ask, what are you actually trusting? What are you actually building on? What do you turn to when everything becomes uncertain? And those are not comfortable questions, because they reveal what we avoid. And this is what made Isaiah different. He was not trying to be accepted. He was not trying to be understood. He was not trying to be liked. He was faithful to what he had seen. And once a man has seen God clearly, he cannot soften truth to make it easier to hear, because truth that is softened loses its power to transform. And Isaiah refused to do that, which is why his voice cut through the noise, and still does. If what you've heard so far already feels intense, what Isaiah saw next goes far beyond warning. It reveals something no one could have imagined. There is something unsettling about clarity that arrives too early. Because when something is revealed before its time, it doesn't comfort, it disturbs. And that is exactly what happens with Isaiah. In the middle of judgment, in the middle of corruption, in the middle of a nation drifting away from God, Isaiah begins to describe someone, not a system, not a reform, not a king rising from political strength, but a person, a figure so precise, so specific that it doesn't feel like prophecy. It feels like memory, therefore. The Lord himself will give you a sign. Isaiah 7:14, not a suggestion, not a possibility, a sign. Something undeniable, a virgin will conceive and give birth to a son. Isaiah 7:14, this breaks logic. It interrupts expectation. It doesn't follow natural order, because what Isaiah is seeing is not human origin. It is divine intervention, and we'll call him Emmanuel. God with us, not distant, not symbolic, not abstract present. But that is only the beginning, because Isaiah continues, and the description becomes even more impossible. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. Isaiah 9:6, a child, and yet more than a son, and yet more than human. And the government will be on his shoulders, authority weight. Responsibility not delegated, not temporary but eternal. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Isaiah 9:6. Notice the tension, a child carrying titles that belong to God. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is theological precision, because Isaiah is not just describing who the Messiah will be. He is revealing what he is. Fully present in humanity, yet carrying divine identity. But then the tone shifts, and this is where everything becomes even more disturbing. Because the Messiah Isaiah describes does not follow the expected path. He does not rise with visible power. He does not conquer through force. He does not establish dominance the way kings do. Instead, he suffers. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. Isaiah 53:2. No external glory, no visible dominance. Nothing that would naturally draw people in. He was despised and rejected by mankind. Isaiah 53:3. Not accepted, not celebrated, rejected. Ignored, dismissed. A man of suffering and familiar with pain. Isaiah 53:3. This is not the Messiah people expected. This is not victory as they imagined. This is something deeper, something harder to understand. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Isaiah 53:4. Pause there. He carried what was not his. He was pierced for our transgressions. Isaiah 53:5. Not his sins, ours. He was crushed for our iniquities. Isaiah 53:5. Not his guilt, ours. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. Isaiah 53:5. This is substitution. This is exchange. This is something no system could achieve, something no ritual could accomplish. By his wounds we are healed. Isaiah 53:5. Isaiah is not describing symbolic suffering. He is describing redemptive suffering, intentional, substitutionary, purposeful, and it continues. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Isaiah 53:7. No defense, no resistance. No retaliation. He was LED, like a lamb to the slaughter. Isaiah 53:7. Not forced LED. Willing, silent, and this is where everything reaches its peak. Because Isaiah is seeing something that would only make sense. Centuries later, he is describing a sacrifice. Not on an altar of animals, but in the life of a person, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Isaiah 53:6. All, not some, not a few, all. This is not national, this is universal. This is not temporary, this is eternal. And yet Isaiah writes this hundreds of years before it happens. Before Rome, before the cross, before the name Jesus would ever be spoken on earth. And still he sees it not vaguely, not partially, but with clarity that cannot be explained by human reasoning. Which leads to a question that still remains. How could he see this? How could a man living centuries before Christ describe him with this level of detail? Because this is not guesswork. This is revelation, and revelation does not come from observation. It comes from God. There is a question that most people never ask. Not because it is irrelevant, but because it is uncomfortable. Who is actually in control? Not in theory, not in belief, but in reality, because when events unfold, when nations rise, when systems collapse, it often looks like chaos, unpredictable, unstable, driven by human ambition, human decisions, human power. But Isaiah presents something radically different. He does not describe a God reacting to history. He reveals a God writing it. I am God, and there is no other. I make known the end from the beginning. Isaiah 46:9-10. This is not poetry, this is authority. God is not discovering what will happen. He is declaring it before it happens. Because from his perspective, time is not a sequence, it is a completed reality. And what humans experience is unfolding. He already sees as fulfilled, which means nothing surprises him. Nothing escapes him, nothing exists outside his control. And Isaiah doesn't stop there. He goes further. He begins to speak about nations, empires, movements of power, and he reveals something unsettling. These are not independent forces. They are instruments woe to Assyria. The rod of my anger, Isaiah 10:5. Assyria believed it was conquering, advancing, dominating, but Isaiah reveals something deeper. They were being used not as allies, not as righteous agents, but as tools. Temporary, purposeful, controlled, because God can use even what opposes him to accomplish what he intends. This shifts everything because it means power is never ultimate. Authority is never absolute, and dominance is never final. Everything operates within a higher framework, a framework most people cannot see, but Isaiah could, and then he reveals something even more precise. Something that moves beyond patterns into exact detail. Who says of Cyrus, "He is my shepherd and will accomplish all that I please." Isaiah 44:28. Cyrus, a name, not a title, not a role. A specific individual named before he existed, before he ruled, before he rose to power. Isaiah is not describing a type of leader. He's identifying a person. And he will say of Jerusalem, "Let it be rebuilt," Isaiah 44:28. This is not general prophecy. This is exact, detailed, specific, confirmed centuries later. Because Cyrus, king of Persia, would eventually issue the decree that allowed Israel to return and rebuild the temple. See Ezra 1:1. And Isaiah saw it long before it happened. Which raises the question again, who is actually in control? Because if a king can be named before he exists, and his actions described before he makes them, then history is not random. It is directed. I will raise up Cyrus in my righteousness. I will make all his ways straight. Isaiah 45:13. Notice the language, I will raise. Not he will rise. God is not observing. He is initiating. Even rulers who do not know him move within his plan. I summon you by name, though you do not acknowledge me. Isaiah 45:4. Cyrus did not serve God. He did not follow him. He did not recognize him, and yet he fulfilled his purpose. This is sovereignty at a level that most people struggle to accept, because it removes the illusion of control. It challenges the belief that history is shaped only by human will. It reveals something deeper, that behind visible decisions, there is invisible direction, that behind political movement, there is divine orchestration, that behind what seems chaotic, there is structure, and this does not eliminate human responsibility, but it reframes human limitation. Because no matter how powerful a system appears, it is never ultimate no matter how dominant a nation becomes. It is never final no matter how uncertain things seem. They are never outside God's control. And Isaiah understood this, which is why he did not panic when nations rose. He did not fear when threats appeared, because he had seen something greater. He had seen who was actually in control. If truth has a cost, the question is not if it will be paid, but who is willing to pay it. There is something history repeats again and again. Truth, when spoken clearly, is rarely welcomed, not because it lacks clarity, but because it demands change, and change threatens comfort. Isaiah did not live in silence. He spoke consistently, directly, without softening what he had seen. And that kind of voice creates tension. Because when truth confronts illusion, one of them has to give way, and most people do not let go of illusion easily. They resist, they justify. They silence. Isaiah had confronted kings. He had challenged systems. He had exposed a nation not from distance, but from within and over time. That kind of message accumulates pressure, because every word spoken builds tension against what people want to preserve. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Isaiah 5:20, this was not just a warning. It was a diagnosis, a reversal of perception, a condition where truth is no longer recognized because standards have shifted. And when that happens, truth becomes offensive. Not because it is wrong, but because it is right. And that is where Isaiah stood, not adjusting truth to match culture, but confronting culture with truth. But there is always a cost, and history shows it clearly. Voices that refuse to compromise often face opposition, not from enemies alone, but from their own people, from those who feel exposed, from those who feel threatened, from those who would rather silence a voice than change their direction. Which of the prophets did your ancestors not persecute? Acts 7:52. This pattern did not begin with Isaiah, but it certainly included him, because tradition tells us that under King Manasseh, a ruler marked by corruption and violence, Isaiah's life reached its end. Not peacefully, not naturally, but violently he was executed. Sawn in two, a brutal end for a faithful voice. A detail echoed in Scripture. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in 2 Hebrews 11:37. The text does not name him directly, but history connects the pattern. A prophet who spoke truth in a time that rejected it and paid the price, but here is what changes everything. His death did not end his message, because truth does not depend on the survival of the messenger. It transcends it. Isaiah's voice did not disappear. It expanded. His words did not fade. They multiplied. They crossed generations, crossed empires, crossed centuries, because what he spoke was not rooted in opinion. It was rooted in revelation, and revelation cannot be silenced. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. Isaiah 48, empires fall. Kings disappear, systems collapse, but what comes from God remains unchanged, unbroken, unstoppable. And Isaiah understood this, which is why he spoke even knowing the cost. Because when a man understands that truth is eternal, fear loses its control, and legacy was no longer measured by survival, but by faithfulness. Because the real question is not how long did he live, but what did he leave behind? And Isaiah left something that still speaks, still confronts, still reveals, still points to something greater. There is something unsettling about realizing that this was never just history, because Isaiah did not only speak to his time, he spoke beyond it, through it, into something that still exists. Because everything he revealed still echoes, still confronts, still exposes. He saw a God not distant but present, not passive but sovereign, not reacting but directing. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Isaiah 6:3. Not just the temple, not just a moment. The whole earth, which means what Isaiah saw was not limited to his experience. It was reality, and most people still don't see it. He exposed a people and who believed they were close to God while living far from him. This people draw near with their mouth, but their hearts are far from me. Isaiah 29:13, and that condition still exists. Not as history, but as pattern. Because it is possible to know about God and still not know him, to speak correctly and live disconnected, to appear aligned while being internally distant. And Isaiah forces the question, what is real in your life? Because truth does not adjust to perception. Perception must adjust to truth. He revealed something even greater, not just the problem, but the answer. A man, a suffering servant. He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Isaiah 53:5. Not symbolic, not theoretical substitution. Exchange redemption. Isaiah saw the cross before the world understood it. He saw the solution before humanity recognized the problem. And that changes everything, because it means this was never reactive. It was intentional, planned, established before it unfolded in time. I make known the end from the beginning. Isaiah 46:10. Which means nothing you see today is outside that same control. Not history, not nations, not events, not even your life. Because the same God Isaiah saw is still reigning, still calling, still revealing. And the question is, no longer did Isaiah see correctly. The question is, are you seeing clearly? Because once you understand what he saw, you cannot go back to comfortable ignorance. You cannot pretend it doesn't matter. You cannot hear this and remain the same, because revelation demands response always. If this opened your eyes even a little, don't stop here. Because Isaiah didn't just reveal truth. He exposed a pattern, a strategy, something happening quietly, consistently right in front of people who never notice.